Hello everyone, this is Julia. Thank you so much for joining me on my craft room adventures. Today, I have an interactive magic iris card to share with you featuring stamps and dice by Fawn. I am just so happy to announce that I was chosen to join the Butterfly Reflections Inc. design team for the upcoming term, and it's an American shop in case you don't know. I will link it down below because they have, well, everything really. It's a one-stop shop for all your favorite crafting brands, and I'm just so happy for this opportunity. I will be up on their blog every week up until April, I think. And I'm just so thrilled about it. I hope you'll join me, and I will also be posting the videos on here. So please go check that out. I would really appreciate it. So moving on to the card, I stamped all of my images onto Neenah's Solar White cardstock, and for my trees I'm using YG61, YG63, YG67, and I'm laying down a second coat of the YG67 just for some added contrast, but it wasn't quite dark enough for what I wanted, so in a second I will also be bringing in the BG99. Even though it's a BG marker, it's basically a really deep like forest green, so it matches really well with a YG67 or YG60s. I'm sorry, the cap is out of frame, but it's the BG99 like I said, and that gave just a lot more contrast there. For the trunks of the trees, I'm using E37 as my darkest shade, E35 as my midtone, and E30 as my lightest shade. I will have a video on how to label the Copics coming up. I still haven't done that. For my Yeti, I'm using E11 for his face, the horns, and the little hands, or paws, whatever it is. Just using the E11 as my darkest shade, blending that out with E00. Then going in with E000, and after that E000. Then I'm laying down a little bit of the R20 for some blush on the cheeks. I'm using cool grays to color in the Yeti. I wanted him to be mostly white, so just adding a little bit of gray around the, well, what is it? The outer areas. I'm not sure what, I'm missing a word here, I'm sorry. Just blending that out with C3, C1, and C0. And then I'm also adding a few dot details of the C3, just in some areas, just to give a little bit more dimension. For my yellow, for the lights inside the houses and also the lamps, I'm using YR23, Y11, Y000, and Y000. That's a hard word. I'm using E30 markers for the roofs on the houses and also the doors. I just wanted a really limited color palette for this one. Then I'm going even a little bit darker still with the R39. Then again with the R37. R35 just to pull the color down a little bit further, and blending that out with R32. The R32 and the R35 don't blend that well since there's quite the gap between them. So for small areas it's fine, but otherwise I would just go in with a tip-to-tip technique just to get a nicer blend for those. I wanted the houses also to remain white, so I'm just adding a little bit of shading with C3 and then C0. I'm not coloring in the snowy areas because I will be adding like stickles there, so you won't be able to see it anyways. I die cut all the pieces for the magic iris. I die cut the main ring pieces 3 times and also the sausages 3 times. And I also die cut the magic iris snow globe add-on. I'm just using Distress Oxides to ink blend. So I'm using Tumbled Glass, Salty Ocean, and Chipped Sapphire. I made sure to leave the inside area just as the tumbled glass so that it would be easier to ink blend the sausage pieces, because you only have to get like one color. Since they will be moving, it's kind of hard to know where to add the shading. Just blending the colors back and forth. I'm not blending the bottom because I will be adding colored cardstock there. Now I'm also adding the tumbled glass onto the sausage pieces. Just bringing in the snow globe that I just ink blended every now and then, just to make sure I get the right intensity so that it would match. We're still a bit too light, so I'm going in with even more ink. And once I was happy with that, I just moved on to the next pieces. I used the outside in stitched circles, which have the largest one has the same size as the magic iris circles. So I just die cut that to cut a little hill. And I also cut a hill panel just for like a snowy hill in the background. Now I'm ink blending a background piece, just using the same colors, but I'm just adding it around the top edge, and I'm going in with a bit of a heavier hand for those so that there's a contrast to the snow globe on the magic iris. Just blending the colors back and forth. I'm adding a lot more shading with the chipped sapphire here than I did on the like snow globe part, and in between I'm wiping off my brush just to make sure I don't contaminate the other colors. I always like to ink blend all of the pieces so that when the mechanism is moving you don't see the white showing. So I added the tumbled glass to the inside of the rings and also to the like little handle on the inside of the handle. Now I'm going in with a little bit more color that still wasn't quite dark enough for what I wanted. And now I'm also bringing in a little bit of black soot just around the very, very edge. And I'm going over that again with a chipped sapphire, because I really like with the oxides that they layer, so the black doesn't actually look black, it just deepens up the blue. Now just blending that out, pulling it a little bit further down with the salty ocean again. Now I'm also ink blending the outside edges of the rings with the tumbled glass, salty ocean, and the chipped sapphire to match with the outside of the snow globe. So because the mechanism always has a little bit of give, I didn't want the like stark white rings to be showing, but I also don't want to like waste good cardstock, so the rings I always cut out of like plain white cardstock. And I also ink blended the like stabilizer pieces that will wrap around so that those would be blue as well. I also added a little bit of tumbled glass to the edges of them. And I die cut the shadow box mountain add-on. And I just used some hickory smoke and a little bit of black soot to ink blend those. And my ink pad, the hickory smoke, is really, really wet. So it's kind of hard to blend with that. But you just have to let it dry a long time and be really, really careful with how much ink you add. And now I'm just going in with the brush that had the black soot on it to just add a little bit more contrast. I'm using the Fawn liquid stardust. Or is it pixie dust? I'm not sure. The sparkly, glittery liquid from Fawn. And I'm just adding splatters all over. I will have everything I used listed below the video, as well as a link to the coordinating blog post on the Butterfly Reflections Ink blog, and there you can find all the product links to everything I used. Then I die cut one of the fancy wavy banners by Fawn, just out of some red cardstock, and I stamped the sentiment from the Yeti or Not stamp set, "The best is Yeti to come," and I know this card is kind of like still Christmassy in color, but Yeah, I'm still kind of in a wintry mood, which isn't surprising because it's currently like 2 degrees Celsius here, so almost freezing temperatures, and we're basically just entering winter. So, and after the year we've all had, you know, it's nice to have hope that, the best is yet to come. So I just ink blended a little bit of aged mahogany on the edges of the banner just to give a little bit more depth, and also on the back so that the folds when you fold the banner are like darker. Now I'm using anti-static powder on all the moving elements of the magic iris. I always find that just makes the mechanism move a lot smoother. So I have my 3 rings, 1 cut out with the slits, the 3 sausage pieces and 3 stabilizers. Now I'm just adding the sausages into the coordinating slits, and I'm using a little bit of post-it tape just to hold them in place so that they don't move around on me and it's easier to assemble the mechanism. Now I'm using the glue dots. They're the mini size. And I'm just using like a craft pick to lay them down on the axis of each of the sausage pieces. And I find that with a craft pick, even though the glue dots can be quite temperamental, that works well. Now I'm laying one of the rings, just lining it up with the sausage pieces and pressing it into the glue dots. I'm adding tape runner to the back of my iris piece, and the die creates these slight stitched lines so you know where to add your stabilizers, and only there I added the tape runner. I'm just lining the curve of the rings up with the stabilizers and just using the stitched lines as my guide where to add them. Then I just flip it over so that one of the stabilizers is facing me, and I'm again using the inside edge to line up the little handle piece, making sure that the stabilizer and the handle form a little V shape so that you know that the placement is correct. Then I'm also adding tape runner to the stabilizer pieces, laying on my top ring and just gently folding over the stabilizers, making sure they're not too tight so that the mechanism has room to move. Making sure it's all lined up nicely and pressing down the adhesive. Then I wanted to try the mechanism, but I forgot that I still have post-it tape on there. So I'm just carefully removing that. And once all the pieces are removed, I'm just playing with the mechanism, making sure it moves nicely, and well, just playing because interactive mechanisms are fun. I layered a piece of dark red cardstock, the same I used for the banner, a piece of silver glitter cardstock, and then my ink blended panel just for some dimension. And now I'm using the iris mechanism and also the snow globes just to figure out the placement on the panel, because I wanted the handle to be in the top right when the iris is closed. Then I adhered the snow globe. I added foam tape to the bottom piece because the iris is quite a bit like higher because of the dimension and the bulk really. Then I added the little like shine pieces because you could see some of the stabilizers below. And then I added the mountain border, and again this one was cut with the stitched circles. I will list below which ones it were, the ones that have the stitching on the inside and the outside, and that is the perfect size, as same as the magic iris rings, so that even the stitching line would match. Then I added the bottom that I die cut out of gray wood grain cardstock, and those pieces I just cut out of some silver mirror cardstock, that was the name. Everything was just added with liquid glue. Now I'm also adding my handle piece. I die cut that out of the same mirror cardstock as well, just adding with liquid glue, and I'm sorry my head keeps popping in there. I die cut the arrow out of the same red cardstock. And now it's time to add my images. I just fiddled around with the placement of everything, So I'm starting by adding my Yeti with liquid glue. Now I'm adding all the other images, just lining them up. I did layer the trees so that they would create a little bit more of dimension. I didn't have room to add the second street lamp, so I just went with one. I added foam squares, the thin foam squares, to the back of the banner, and I just added that to the bottom or the base of the snow globe. And then I just wanted to add some snowflakes to the background, so I die cut the snowflakes that come with the magic iris die, and also the mini snowflakes that Lawn Fawn has, and or the mini snowflake die, and I just cut them out of white cardstock, and now I'm just using my picker tool to add them to my background. Now I'm using a BG quadruple zero marker just on the mountain tops, on the snowy tops of the houses. And I'm using the Nouveau Aqua Shimmer Pen in Glitter Gloss just to add some shine to the trees, well, basically everything really. You can never have too much sparkle, so I'm also adding it to all of the snowflakes. Now I'm just opening the iris, and this is when I realized that I forgot to add snowflakes to the inside, so I just quickly did that off camera. Then I'm just using my favorite Stardust stickles on the trees and the mountaintops and the snow areas of the house as well. And then I'm also going in with a Nouveau Crystal Glaze just on the street lamps and also the windows on the houses. Going in with more shimmer pen over on the snowflakes because that wasn't enough yet. It needed more shimmer. And that finishes off my card for today. I'm so happy with how it turned out, and I know it could totally still be a Christmas card, but I mean, I'm still watching Christmas movies, so maybe that's why. Please tell me I'm not the only one. I'm not ready to give up on Christmas just yet. So I really like how it turned out. I hope you do as well. Thank you so very much for watching. As I said, I will link to the blog post and the Butterfly Reflections ink shop down below. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful start to 2021. I will be back soon with a new crafty video, so I hope you'll join me. Until then, have a great day. Bye!